one thing I like to do before I start these sessions is just to set the intention that whoever needs to hear this will find it, and that it'll be delivered in a way that whoever needs to hear whatever needs to come through, that they may understand that and be able to receive it in a way that is supportive for them. Yeah. I think setting intention is really good at the start of these sorts of things. Takes the stress off.
Takes the stress off.
Yeah. And then...
All right, this is episode 1 of Performance and Philosophy. Today I'm joined by John. He's a breathwork administrator, and he's here to share how we can use breathwork in our day-to-day life and to accelerate our performance. So take it away, John. Introduce yourself.
Yeah, so my name is johnvanhuenen, and I'm a trauma-informed breathwork facilitator. So what does that mean? That means I support people in removing maybe mindset blockages or emotional blockages that could be impacting their ability to function optimally in life. And I do that through guiding specific breathwork practices to support people in their inner transformations, essentially. Yeah.
Awesome. So great to have you on here. And what brought you to this space? What brought you into all of that? What prompted this journey?
About 10 years ago, up until my late 20s, I used to have, I was always sick. So I was really into cycling. So I'd ride, a couple of 100 Ks easy a week, usually, 100, 150 in the weekends. And I'd be doing so well. And then out of nowhere, I would just, my body just, I'd get really sick, essentially. I'd get chest infections. I'd be on antibiotics. I wouldn't be able to do anything for weeks sometimes. And they'd drop me right back down again. And eventually I just got sick of, I started to get really depressed from the antibiotics as well. I didn't realize that was a side effect. And I'd been taking these things since I was a kid. I'd had chest infections and been sick since I was like maybe 6 or 7. So I just decided, there's got to be an alternative solution to this, because whatever the root cause isn't getting addressed through just taking medication, and no amount of changing my diet or ensuring that I stay fit and healthy seems to be making any real impact. So I kind of went on my own journey of about 10 years, trying everything from I guess more functional medicine to essentially just got more and more woo, I guess, as I went on, as I tried different things. So I got, I also got really into yoga as well, which was super supportive. That actually was really beneficial in my cycling, but didn't really get to the issue, the real issue, which was always being sick. So that's when I first discovered, these ways of working with the root cause. What's the emotional or subconscious belief there, which keeps recreating this pattern reoccurring in my life. And yeah, tried everything from kinesiology to traditional psychotherapy to, the plant medicines, ayahuasca and psilocybin and all that. And then one day I was scrolling on Instagram, as we do, and I just saw this guy who was covered in tattoos. I was like, he's kind of cool. So I gave him a follow, which is something I'd never really normally do. And then he was, a month later, he's like, I'm in New Zealand and we're going to be running an event. I was like, oh, I don't even know what you do, but whatever it is, I'm just going to jump on board and give that a go. And that was my experience with breathwork. And, I'd spent 10 years kind of, although a lot of these things that I was working with were really transformational, I worked out of that first breathwork journey feeling self-empowered and, stronger, healthier, more clear on what it is that I was trying to achieve. And the best part was that I didn't feel like I'd given my power away to someone else. Like it was all me doing that breath practice. It was me going into that altered state of consciousness where, that prefrontal cortex slows down, and I'm able to, go into those subconscious thoughts and kind of question, oh, why is it that I think that way about that thing? Or, oh, that's interesting. That memory kind of comes up when I focus on that part of my body, and I wonder what that's about. And through that process, was able to shift a lot of that. And yeah, I mean, it changed my life in so many ways, including um, yeah, not really getting sick anymore, which is amazing, and haven't been on antibiotics for the last 10 years, which is, massive for someone who was on antibiotics probably every few months. Yeah, it was a real issue.
I can imagine. That's amazing. So, look through all these different things, all these different practices, trying your best to, solve the root cause. And then once you kind of weren't even looking for it, came across on your phone, and then bam, an event's in your area, and that's what ended up changing your life. That's
Yeah, absolutely.
it's
Yeah.
amazing how the universe works sometimes.
Oh, totally. And I guess, it's about being curious as well, because if I wasn't curious about trying something a little bit different, I would never have come across all these other modalities which uh, would have supported me along the way. That I would have still been, going to the doctor every few months and taking a few pills uh, and that in itself is hugely detrimental for your gut biome as well. We understand now how important the gut biome is, and they're even calling like our second or third brain as well. There's a lot to it, and when we're just continuously filling it full of uh, a product that is just destroying all the good bacteria within it. Obviously, that can have huge mental impacts, and it stops our body from being able to, uh, yeah, build its own immune system as well. That gut, that good gut flora and fauna and whatnot.
For sure. I mean, if your gut's not healthy, that's what controls most of your hormones.
Yeah, exactly
And
right. Yeah.
we know how much hormone imbalances messes people up, so can only imagine. But so it's been nearly a decade since you first got into breathwork. Then is that
No, it's been about 4 years since I got into breathwork.
4 years?
Yeah, 4 years. Yeah.
And 10 years ago is when the initial event
That was when
was.
the initial like something needs to change. Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
And then it along about a 6-year journey to get to this is actually what's going to help me and has improved you since.
Yeah, and I've since I started that journey, I always knew that I wanted to offer something to the world to be able to support people, because I'd obviously experienced things myself, but never really been able to find something. And it wasn't until I found breathwork, I was like, this is it. This is the thing that I really would love to bring to the world in my own unique way.
Yes. So you always had that calling that you wanted to help others. You wanted to do something to just help the world, and you didn't know what that calling truly was until you found this. Then.
Yeah, totally. Like I started my journey as a marine cabinet maker. So I used to build interiors for boats. Um, and then went on to building and then went to design school and became a designer. But the interesting thing is about no matter what it was I was doing, whether it was on the building site talking to the clients, I was always more curious about what was going on for them as opposed to the actual project we were working on. And same with when I was a designer, like we'd kind of would have these briefs we were supposed to go on and chat about what would improve. I guess the one that's coming to mind was a precinct around a train station and how we could improve that experience for people. But the more I talked to the locals, all I really wanted to know was like, oh, like what's going on for you? Like what experiences have you had? Oh, like how is that supporting you? Like, I've always been quite fascinated with understanding people and connecting to them and yeah, what makes them tick. And yeah, and then I guess it's just developed into a way of being like, oh, how can I support people as well, not just have that mild curiosity about um, the human psychology.
Sounds as if you've been destined to get into this route. Just took you a while to actually get there, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, and I guess uh, I really love the quote that when it comes to this sort of work, you can only take someone as deeply as you've taken yourself. So it, if I first year in of this experience 10 years ago, decided to become a facilitator without having that whole journey of myself, my own self discovery, I wouldn't be able to do what I can do today, where I've been to a lot of those deeper parts of myself. Um, and we talk about shadow work or inner child work or whatever you want to call it. Um, Not saying that the healing is ever done, but I've definitely experienced a lot and been through a lot and learned to navigate my way through it.
I see. So what was that quote you said? You can only take it as deep as you take
You
yourself?
can only meet someone as deeply as you can meet themselves. So so yeah, if you were to come to me and had experienced, some sort of event, uh, and I hadn't explored my own internal world deep enough, I wouldn't be able to be able to support you through that in a safe way because I wouldn't have. Um, and it doesn't have to be the same event, but there's a level of having to go through your own um, inner work before you can make sure you create a safe space for someone else without starting to project your own stuff onto them. If that makes sense.
I see. So a bit of, I guess, a level of congruence. Whatever you're preaching,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
need to
exactly.
actually have
Yeah,
gone yourself.
totally. Yeah, and because there's plenty of snake oil salesmen in this world.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, it's important to when you are looking for a facilitator to find someone who uh, has put in the inner work themselves and trust your. I guess we're coming back to the whole um, the way the world works. Trust your intuition as well. Like if just because they have a million followers on Instagram or because your mate Jack recommended them,
Yeah.
just like actually like sit with it, maybe have a chat with them, check them out on social media, whatever you need to do just to make sure that you feel comfortable with them, because the main part about this work is that the client feels, that you feel safe in the environment.
Mhm.
That's probably the number one most important aspect of this work.
So it's find that person that you resonate with and are willing to share yourself more deeply and
Yeah, totally. Yeah, yeah, because there's a level of vulnerability on both sides, right? It's not just about the client coming um, and speaking. It's about being able to meet each other in a way that allows the person to open up as well.
So how do you feel after you administer a session in any regard? Does it feel mentally taxing towards your side as well then? Just going through that with, whoever you're with?
I think it used to, because I used to uh, try to fix the person or try give them my everything or try my best to hold the space or whatever it was. And the more I do this, the more I've kind of learnt that I can step back and just to be there for that person and guide them through the process and not have to put so much of my energy in. If we're going to get a little bit woo, there's also the practices that I've instilled in my world that make it so that I'm not using so much of that person's my own energy in that session. It's all that person, and that's why I guess that's why I love breathwork. Right? It's able to make you feel so self empowered, uh, but for that to really come into full effect, I need to step away and just let that person process whatever it is they need to process. And when I need to step in, obviously with inquiry or whatever it is that needs to be done in the session, but not trying to force anything or like trying to prove myself. It's like whenever you start anything, right? Like um, the guy who's never done boxing before jumps in the ring and he's just swinging punches, just trying to get as many hits in as he can. And then, over the time, you kind of understand how it is you can actually show up in the ring and you can start to conserve your energy and you can actually last that 10 rounds rather than just blowing yourself to pieces. And I guess it's kind of the same with breathwork, right? It's just like realizing, okay, let's just um, let things unfold as they need to.
Yeah, I can definitely see that for sure. Boxing all the time. You have these, especially, guys around my age, they'll come in, they think they're the man, they want to prove it. So, there's there to win, not really trying to improve or just be present in the moment. They're just trying to show, like, I'm the man,
The hardest, the fastest.
exactly. But it usually doesn't go well. It usually yeah, them gassing, getting tired in the first round, and then, the person who was just calm and just, staying in the moment there to improve, starts getting their way after, the first 30 seconds of, I guess, young fruit and aggression out of the way. Then it's just shit.
Once that adrenaline wears out, then there's not much left in the tank afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's where breathwork can come in so handy uh, in performance sports, especially things like boxing, where um, if we want to talk about the stress responses, if we're talking about adrenaline and whatnot, the stress responses, so you have your fight, flight, freeze, fawn responses, and these are kind of um, when someone is taken into an elevated state, they're going to react in one of these ways, whether it be the fight response, um, it's getting super aggressive, the flight response, where they just want to get out of the situation as fast as possible. Freeze, where maybe their mind goes blank, they have no idea how to respond. Or fawn, which is you're not going to see so much in performance sports, but that's where that response kind of shows up more in people pleasing. So, if we were to say that maybe that started as a child, that would be, maybe the parents arguing and the child trying to keep the peace in the situation. But if we, referring to like a boxing environment, then, you say the person spent all their time in the gym, they're super um, primed athletically, and all of a sudden, they step into the ring and maybe the other fighter or the the referee says something that maybe triggers them in some way and kind of changes, takes them out of the present moment, and all of a sudden that stress response kicks in, and maybe it's a flight response, so they have no idea how to react in that moment, or the freeze. So like they're trying to work out uh, what action to take against their opponent, but their brain just can't kind of comprehend what's going on. And all of a sudden, no matter how much of that background work they've done in sparring sessions or whatever, once that trigger response is hit, it's kind of, it becomes very tricky to get yourself out of that in a heightened state like that.
So, what could someone in this space do to address that in advance? Because in our last conversation, I don't know if you remember, I was talking about that specific thing with the referee. They would call on me, and now I don't really worry about it as much. But when I first started, my first few fights and bouts, it just set me in a place where it instantly threw me off. I, got worried, was more panicked, wasn't in that present calm state as before. So, what could someone who has those triggers, or maybe their opponent rocks them, just in general and in the fight space, what can someone do to, I guess, preemptively prepare for something like that to occur?
Okay, to get
I mean,
yourself out of that
visualization is
in a
always a
heightened
great place to
state.
start.
Mhm.
And maybe it's
So, what
just a
could
simple
someone
breathwork
in
practice
this space
before
do to address that in
before
advance?
dropping into a
Because
bit of
in our last
visualization and
conversation, I don't know
imagining
if you
yourself in
remember,
that
I was talking
space,
about that specific thing with the
and
referee. They would call on me, and
and creating a
now
sense
I
of
don't really
calm
worry about it
within the
as
body
much. But when
in
I
that
first
time.
started, my first few
If you want to
fights
go
and
deeper,
bouts,
we could talk about
it just
breathwork
set me in a
sessions where we
place
really focus
where
on
it instantly threw me
those key
off.
moments
I,
in life that
got
kind of
worried, was more panicked,
brought upon
wasn't in that present
those
calm
stress
state as
responses, so
before.
that
So
they don't
what
become
could
a problem
someone who
anywhere in
has
life, not
those
just in the
triggers,
boxing
or
ring.
maybe their opponent
Uh,
rocks them,
or it may
just
be a
in
case
general and in the
of,
fight space, what can someone do
yeah,
to,
just
I guess,
connecting to the
preemptively
body and noticing
prepare
when
for
that
something
sensation
like that
arises.
to
Where do you
occur?
feel it in the
I mean,
body, and can you
visualizations
just
is
be
always a
present
great
with it,
place to start.
allow it to be there, not judge it, maybe
It's
be
just
curious
a
about what
simple
it is. Maybe
breathwork
there's a
practice
memory that comes
before
up when you think about it.
before
Maybe you can do
dropping
a little
into a
bit
bit
of
of
journaling about, oh,
visualization and
that's,
imagining yourself in that
uh,
space,
why is it
and
that memory's coming to me? What is it?
and
What have I
creating
made
a
it
sense
mean?
of calm within the body in
And
that time.
yeah, and just kind of help to
If you
soothe
want to go
yourself
deeper,
away from it being such a prominent, impactful moment in your life.
Mhm. So what if there's something that someone's unaware of what could trigger them?
Mm.
What could you do through that? Is that more of that deeper inner work, or
I'd say that's more of the deeper inner work where we kind of because as much as we like to say I don't have any traumas, we all have traumas. Like, with the big T or the little T traumas, big T traumas, but um, passing of loved ones or car accidents, and little T traumas could just be, you know, um, a kid at school when we're 6 years old saying something to us that really stuck with us and we didn't really know how to process at the time, and then um, we kind of hold that until our body holds all of this um, internally, right? Uh, as emotion. And so until we find a way to address it, and that's where breathwork comes, and then we can, start to uh, use these deeper breathwork sessions to just be curious about what's happening in the body, and from there it might start to tell us a story about, these thoughts that might start to arise and all these sensations in the body, and um, so often people avoid feeling sensations in their body, uh, and I guess a lot of that we can call it ADHD, and sometimes we can definitely mitigate some of the symptoms of ADHD through breathwork, because a lot of it is just an overwhelming sensation in the body that we just continuously try to do things to kind of avoid. So yeah, we can use these deeper breathwork sessions to help to bring awareness to maybe some of these experiences we didn't realize they played such a large role in our life, and help to move or shift or rewrite that script. So maybe you had a challenging experience as a child, and we can go back there and we can this is what you call the inner child work, where we can go back to that place and start to recreate that scenario in a way that allows us to later on to look back at it in a different way. So it's not something we're holding on to. It's not so impactful and creating tension or stress in our body in the present moment.
I see. And this stuff often will actually hold people back in terms of just purely performance environments as well. Do you find in a physical sport like boxing, do you think something like this, even if they're not, for example, the ref doesn't worry them or they're not worried about anything in the ring, they're completely fine. Do you think this could affect how far someone could go in terms of sport or, even with business, etc.?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we all have limiting beliefs as well, right? So one of those may be financial. Maybe you're taught as a kid that you have to work really hard to become successful, or maybe that you're just taught that your family's never going to be successful. You're never going to amount to anything. Maybe you had parents or whatever that were telling you that you're no good, or that this is as good as life gets. Or maybe there's a belief system there that as much as you really, really want to be successful, maybe there's part of you that feels like, oh, but if I become successful, then people will look at me a different way, or maybe my family will judge me in a certain way. And it's all these subconscious belief systems where we don't even realize that are ticking along in the background that are really limiting the way in which we can show up in the world, and we'll start doing subconsciously self-sabotaging, or and maybe that's through alcohol abuse, or getting into unhealthy relationships, or it can come in a manner of different ways, but just our subconscious kind of driving us away from achieving our goal because it doesn't feel safe in our body, essentially.
I see. Do you think this is potentially related to when you were younger and you were training tons, biking tons, and then would get sick? Is that at all related to that? As you mentioned, none of the traditional medicinal practices helped at all, but once you got into this deeper breath work, that stopped you getting sick all the time. Do you think that's at all related to what you're talking about right now?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there was a subconscious belief, because it was something that I experienced as a kid. If I exerted too much energy in any way, that I'd get sick. And then because I've had that experience, it starts to play as a subconscious pattern in my mind where, okay, well, every time you put in, I was super healthy, jump on the bike, ride 150 Ks, feel great, 2 hours later, like chest infections, in bed for a week. It didn't really make sense, right? There's obviously something, there's some incongruency there. It's not like I was hanging out around sick people and I was already feeling run down. I was feeling like peak performance, and then within a few hours I'd be unwell. So there was obviously a subconscious program there that was telling me that there's only a certain level you can get to, or you can only push yourself so hard before your body collapses. Yeah.
I've definitely heard about that, even in terms of, for example, let's say someone on the brink of a UFC contract or something of those lines, and they get up to that level, and then all of a sudden they get a small injury. They sprain their ankle, or this happens or that happens right before they finally make that breakthrough, and it almost seems, once or twice, obviously, injuries happen, but when that happens every single time, it almost seems, is that something going on behind
What's
the
really
scenes?
happening there?
Are they almost self-sabotaging, as you mentioned? So, yeah, I can definitely see how that would hold someone back, even if they're doing all the right actions, doing all the right things, training the right way, eating the right way. If you don't have that mindset that you can achieve whatever you're aiming for, you forget the quote, but it's something along the lines of, if you think you're going to fail, you are. If you think you're going to succeed, you probably will. Something along those lines.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
It's usually true. Whatever you believe, whether you think you're going to succeed or not, it's usually what you believe. It's usually true.
And our conscious belief system only makes up about, our conscious thoughts is about 1%. Our subconscious is running like 99% of the programs in the background. So as much as we like to consciously, use positive affirmations and train hard and do all these things, if we haven't addressed any of that subconscious belief systems, then we're just going to keep recurring those same patterns because nothing's really changing.
So unfortunately, it's one of those things. We can't just brute force it. We can't just... You can fake it till you make it to a certain extent, but if you don't address that deeper stuff, there's only so much you can, fake.
Absolutely. And usually it leads to some sort of illness or burnout, because you're trying to force something so aggressively, and your body's just not able to remain in a sense of catharsis during that process.
So what experience do you have with people specifically in this sort of space, training, sports, or just high performance in general? What has your experience been, and what, I suppose, tangible results have you seen come from these deep inner works, or even just general small breathwork habits? What sort of tangible results have you seen?
I think when it comes to smaller, just a daily breathwork practice, you can start to build, we're not going deeply, but you can even just with one of those, you can kind of start to build a level of emotional resilience or ability to become more comfortable in challenging positions and challenging environments. So the analogy that I think is just the easiest way to describe it is, a toddler, they drop a toy or whatever, and they get really, or a kid takes their toy, they get really upset.
Yeah.
And then as we get older, we realize that, okay, that's not such a big deal. And I guess daily breathwork practice is kind of another extension of that. Like we just keep showing our body and showing our mind and system that, we can actually handle difficult things. And so they become less of a problem later on. It can also give us a great barrier between, I don't know, say someone, you do your daily breathwork practice in the morning, you jump in your car, you head to work, and someone cuts you off. And in my experience, that little bit of time to connect to your breath and your body kind of creates a little bit of a buffer between the experience and the way in which you react to it. So maybe before you'd cuss the person off or brake check them or something like that to get back at them, you're like, okay, that's I can deal with it. That's fine. I can move along, as opposed to letting it ruin your entire day. And that's where also those shorter breathwork practices throughout the day can kind of create a nice little buffer zone to kind of drop you back out of that sympathetic, the activated, heightened response state, back into that more regulated state. So you become more able to deal with challenging environments and situations. And then on a deeper level, we can, I guess, like I was speaking to before, we can understand the way in which we, if it is the boxing gym we're talking about, or the boxing ring we're talking about, it is our ability to perform and be far more in the moment, more focused, more connected to our bodies, more connected to understanding what's happening with the opponent, as opposed to letting those old programs maybe start to seep in and affect our performance, I guess. Does that answer your question?
Yes. Do you think, so this will give you a bit more time, so you're not as reactive right away. Do you think you could ever go too far in that way? And, with boxing, let's say you take a hard shot, normally you'd, be really reactive and maybe it would throw you off, but instead with this breath work, or, someone cuts you off, you have that extra second to feel your thoughts feel your emotions and think through your thoughts before you react. That could be great. Do you ever think you could go too far to the point where you can't use that sympathetic system as much, or you can't, when you get that adrenaline, you can't use, I suppose, that anger or use that fear and react off of it, if that makes sense?
It's where you become
too calm.
too enlightened to to be able to box.
Because it's an aggressive sport at the end of the day.
No, I think what we're doing here, people often think that anger is a is a negative emotion, but sometimes it's just misdirected, and it can, when we start to work with these aspects, we can almost empower them more in a way that it turns to passion or what and enliven the experience to be more impactful in your chosen sport or chosen field or whatever it is, as opposed to you're not going to become less aggressive, but you're going to be able to harness that aggression more and be able to use it in a more productive way.
Mm-hmm. No, awesome. Yeah, because it's not really something that I've been fearful of, but that's something that I have heard is when I talk about breath work or being more relaxed in the ring, is some people worry about, oh, but then if I'm relaxed, I won't be able to throw a hard shot, or I won't be able to actually fight properly. But yeah, when you talk about that and how you can use that anger in the right way instead of just, I guess, having it all wild and out of control, so that you're purely in a state of reaction where you can harness that anger and use it how you want to with whatever intent you've set. That definitely seems a bit more productive, I would say.
Yeah, more directive and able to use it in a targeted, controlled way, as opposed to just a blind rage that, as we spoke about at the start of this podcast, that just ends up blowing you out and becomes crazed and less impactful.
Sure. So if an athlete, they wanted to start working on this, but let's say they didn't have, they're full up with training, maybe they have a kid, maybe a full-time job, how would they start integrating this without, taking an hour each day just to work on it? How would they be able to just integrate it into their daily practices without a loss of time?
Yeah, so I mean, that would require them having maybe 10 minutes in the morning, if that's possible. I've got on my website, navigatingbreath.com. You can go on my YouTube channel there. There's some shorter breathwork practices, and taking as much as 6 minutes or so to kind of build that sort of practice. And and sometimes that daily practice might be all they need for now as well. It's just it's a way to gradually, very gently take layers off, but connect more deeply. The longer you do it, the more you're going to connect to it and build some foundations in it. But I mean, you've got to start somewhere, right? You can't just think about something and it's going to change. You actually have to take action.
For sure. So a combined effort of having the right intention and mindset with the applicable action.
Yeah, and maybe you only have a few minutes a day, so it's just a case of, finding somewhere to sit down for a few minutes, closing down your eyes, taking, 20 or 30 nice deep breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth, or in through the mouth, out through the mouth, and then just letting yourself sit in that stillness for a few moments.
So if someone only had, 5 to 10 minutes, even that just each day as a repetitive action, that would benefit someone's performance, their day-to-day life?
Yeah,
just
absolutely.
5 to 10 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, when we're putting effort into our diaphragm, we're kind of strengthening those muscles as well. So it's not just a mindset thing. It's like a practical, create strength within the body as well. And then maybe if, when they're training, they could focus more on breathing through their nose as much as possible, because that's going to help to relax their nervous system as well. So just simple things like that.
So for fighters, MMA, boxing, etc., usually have minute round rest. What would you recommend? What would be your sort of optimal 1 minute of rest using breath work, mindset? What should you be thinking about? How should you be breathing so that you're best prepared to go into, that second, third, fourth, or so round?
I'd say, if you can, closing down your eyes, just really allowing yourself to feel your feet on the ground, taking some nice deep breaths in. Maybe you're breathing in for 4 or 5 seconds, breathing out for 8 seconds, just trying to extend those exhales through the nose, just to help to re-regulate your system, because you've only got that short amount of time. So what you really want to be focusing on is just re-regulating your system, kind of bringing yourself back down to that, out of that heightened state before you get back into the ring. And maybe if you can, you kind of can start to visualize, I don't know, whether it's the way in which you show up in the next round, or even just the sensation, or what it would be like to, to get some good hits in that next round, or even win the fight if that feels attainable. That's one of those things about those mindset things, right? Is some people do all the training and they go out there and they have no real belief in themselves that they're going to win, and we come back to that, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. And yes, I just encourage them to really focus on relaxing, focusing on the sensation in their body of winning that fight, and the excitement of that, or the gratitude of that, and just really slowing their breath down, bring themselves back into the present moment, focusing on the sensations of yourself sitting down on the stool, or your feet on the ground, just to help to bring you back into that present moment, back into your body.
Awesome. So what if someone, they had everything at play to win, great shape, great fitness, they're saying the right things, whether they believe them or not, we don't really know. But they're just feared about the pain, or they're scared about being hurt. They're scared about, I guess, the damage that would come from the sport, as that's, a very common thing, reasonably so.
Cody says with a black eye.
So yeah, someone's scared about being hurt. Maybe they do think they can win, but they just have that underlying fear of, this person could hurt me. How could someone work on that specifically to just overcome that fear? Or maybe it's a fear of, maybe they have a kid, a partner, maybe they have, a parent who's older age and they need to take care of them, so they're worried about maybe getting off of work for a few weeks because maybe it's in MMA, maybe they're in a compromising position on the ground, and they just have that fear and it's really holding them back. What would you say? How could someone progress past that?
I'd say that's a deeper rooted sense of fear in life in general, and maybe it links back to birth potentially, but I'd say that would still come back to a learnt behavior, a learnt mindset potentially. Parents, being like, oh, just watch out, Jimmy. Don't go down that way, or oh, don't do that. It's dangerous if you do that. And these sorts of things we kind of build over time, and they become these more deeper set belief systems that the world is unsafe. And so I'd say that's probably where you'd want to be focusing on more those deeper breathwork journeys, and the facilitated journeys where you can kind of get really targeted on where those sort of belief systems first started to arise.
For sure. So that back to that deeper stuff seems to really be the root cause of a lot of issues, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely, and we all have them, right? We all, as beautiful as our childhood may have been, and as loving as our parents may have been, we all have a whole world of other outside influences that can impact the way in which we, because in the first 7 years of our lives, that's when we're kind of taking all these information and building all these understandings of how the world functions, because we don't have any rational understanding of the way in which we should or shouldn't perceive the world. So yeah, we're literally just creating a worldview based on what we're told or what we see.
So would you believe you're more on the nurture versus the nature side of the argument then? Is that...
I think there's definitely a line. I think yeah, definitely. I mean, from what I understand, one of the most important impacts of how children respond to a traumatic event is having a safe environment in the home. So, the example was after 9/11, the kids who could go back to a safe home were very not really shaken by the event at all. Whereas those that couldn't, they didn't have someone else to help regulate their nervous system and relax them and bring them back to that state of the catharsis. So that became a traumatic event for them. But do I think you should just let your kids run rampant and not try at least teach them values and the way in which we should and shouldn't be in the world? Maybe not. I think there's a line where we there's probably the best of both worlds. Yeah, and I mean I'm about to become a dad in 3 months' time, so don't take my advice. I'm still working. Yeah, I could be so wrong, but that's just the way I perceive it at the moment. That's just from what I've seen, that makes the most sense to me. It's like a combination of the two.
Yeah. So how are you feeling about it? 3 months gonna be a dad. Obviously, it's gonna change things up a little bit. How are you feeling about that?
Absolutely. I mean, when people ask me, my go-to joke at the moment is like, "Thank God I've got 9 months to prepare," because I feel like it's just been hugely transformational for me. And I didn't realize how fucking selfish I am. We all have what we want to do in the world, and then we realize that when we have this potential of looking after another human, how selfish we really are in the way in which we show up in the world. And a lot of belief system stuff has come up, so I've had to process that, and relationship things, and I'm always doing my own work as well, right? So it's not like I said before, I'm not like some enlightened being, but yeah, the closer we get now, I'm getting more excited about it and feel more grounded about it, and more trusting in the process. And I guess the biggest thing I've probably learned in the last 6 months of going through this process is just learning to trust. Trust that things always work out, I guess. And, I mean, whether you choose to believe in some higher power, whether it's religious or spiritual, or, maybe it's just believing in source, creator, nature, whatever it is, definitely helps to take the stress and the load off. And I think it's the same with anything that, like before we started this podcast, we set a bit of an intention, and that is just, it kind of takes all the pressure off you to a certain extent. And the other thing I'd encourage is to set the same intention when it comes to showing up for training or showing up before a fight. Just set the intention that I'm going to do the best I can, and and then get out there and do it. But just those little things to just take the pressure off us from feeling like we have to carry all the weight in the world can be really helpful.
For sure. Wow, that's awesome. And yeah, I could only imagine. Definitely thank God there's 9 months, because if it was 1 week or anything, it's a pretty big change. So it's good, 6 months. You've had this time to reflect on yourself and realize, what needs to change, bringing another life into the world, which I obviously also have not experienced. So I could only imagine that would be a tough, but also an exciting journey and I guess transformation to go through. So that's awesome, and definitely setting that intention definitely helped before this podcast, and I'm definitely big before any training session I have, really anything I do. I like to set that intention, journal about it. If you're very clear with where you're going, what you want to do, and how you want to show up, I think it's a lot easier to execute that than the analogy I always like to give is, if you're an archer and you're trying to shoot at the target, trying to get a bullseye, if you don't know where the target is,
It's been pretty hard.
Yeah. I'm sure there's some, maybe you get lucky.
Yeah.
That might happen. Maybe you shoot it up there. That's where the target was. But most of the time, you could be way off. You don't know how close you could be. But if you set that intention, you know exactly where you're trying to go. You can know maybe I just need this one little change, and I would have, showed up as I wanted to, or I would have, set my goal for the day. Maybe you realized you were way off because you actually set that target and you knew where it was. So I definitely find it's probably one of the best practices I've done really ever. Just journaling and setting that intention just for my daily life, how I want to show up with people, how I want to show up, at practice, just everything. I would definitely say it's great practice to do for sure.
Yeah, and I think interesting. Just coming back to what you said about setting in a goal or intention. I think some people don't, and it's because there's a subconscious belief that they're not going to be able to achieve it. So it's like, oh no, I'm just gonna try this and see how it goes.
Yeah.
Because it feels a whole lot better than being like, oh yeah, I want that, and then the potential of people being like, oh, well, you didn't get that. You said you're going to get it. In my experience, just no one cares what you're doing. As long as you're a good person, they're not going to care if you fail or or succeed or whatever it is. So just go after your dreams because everyone's too busy worrying about themselves.
Exactly.
So I'd suggest just really getting clear on what it is that vision is and sticking to it and going for it because you've only got one life. And if you get to the the end result and you don't like it, well then try something else. Because that's what life's all about. It's about just getting out and trying things and living and not living from that state of mere existing.
For sure. I think a lot of people also think when they do, of course, they set a goal. Once you actually say this is your goal, obviously you can fail it. But I think a lot of people also fear, if they say they're going to do something, you're stuck your whole life, sort of that sunken cost fallacy. If you commit, let's say you commit a few months to doing something and you decide, this path is actually much better for me, they think, oh no, because I already told people this is what I want to do. You need to spend your whole life towards that one thing. You can't just give up because other people, oh yeah, you said you were going to do this, you didn't do it, almost as if you're obligated to, but yeah, just live life. You're not obligated to do.
Absolutely. I mean, I've
anything.
and my experience, it all kind of feeds into itself in some way anyway. It may not feed directly, maybe you decided you want to become a pro boxer and then all of a sudden you want to go off in a very different direction, but no doubt the skills or the mindsets or whatever it is that you developed through chasing that goal will support you in whatever else it is you want to do. It really isn't like, it may seem vastly different, but in my experience, it really isn't. And this is from someone who's had a lot of different careers. Like you look at my CV, it's like freaking all over the place.
Really?
But it's also helped me to get where I am now. And for the time being, this is where I am really enjoying being.
And you seem to be thriving at it, so
thank you.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Should we go wrap up?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Awesome. So, any idea how to wrap up? I'll just edit this part out. I have no idea how to wrap up.
Yeah, just say something like, how's the best to get hold of you, or connect with you, and then just say, oh yeah, and I'll see you next time.
Sweet. All right, John. So thanks so much for the chat today. Really appreciate having you on here. What's the best way to get a hold of you if someone wants to check out your stuff? Those breathwork videos you mentioned, your Instagram. What's the best way to find you?
So my website is probably the easiest because all the links will be on there. Navigatingbreath.com. My socials is my full name, which I'm guessing will be in this link anyway, in this title of this video, which is John Van Huenen, which is why my business is called Navigating Breath, because no one can spell Van Huenen. VANHUENEN. You've also got a YouTube, which is if you search Navigating Breath on there, you'll find it. But yeah, thanks for having me on. This has been really good fun, and looking forward to seeing how your journey progresses.
Awesome. Thank you very much, and yeah, appreciate the chat.
Cool.
Thanks for tuning in.
Awesome. Nice one.
Good work. Thank you, John.
My pleasure.
It's funny you mentioned that as well, because when I was trying to find I knew it was John. I thought it was Van, so I put John Van, but I couldn't figure out. I was trying to add you to my story. I was trying to find which one you were, because there's a lot of John Vans, but I didn't remember the profile picture.
Yeah.
And I had no idea what it was after that, so